Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon, I bid to all. For this afternoon session, you are with me, Mr. AZRIQ AIMAN bin AZMAN, also known as Mr. AIMAN, and I'm a teacher from Sekolah Bersama Penuh Integrasi KUANTAN. So in this afternoon, what we will be doing is that we are going to focus for SPM English Paper 1, focusing on Section B, which is the continuous writing. If you can see on the screen now, there are three main important things that you should consider when you are attempting this section. The first one, the number 60, is the time allotted for you to answer this section. You are given 60 minutes to attempt the continuous writing part. And then the 5 Qs stands for 5 questions. It's a matter of you making the right choice when you are attempting this question. Be it if you are answering the factual question, argumentative, descriptive, narrative, or even reflective. And lastly, the 50M is the big factor because this section carries 50 marks for the whole English paper, which is the highest among all. Next, in this slide, I'm going to explain to you what we are going to do this afternoon. Firstly, I'm going to present to you the assessment objectives. Okay. And then next one, we will go about with how you can use around 15 minutes to create a storyline. And in the next section, we are also going to look into how to vary your sentence structures. And then lastly, I'm going to sum out our afternoon session for today. Right. Firstly, let's look at the assessment objectives for continuous writing, paper 1. There are a lot of assessment objectives, but as for this afternoon, I am going to focusing only on these two. The first one is that you, the candidates, are expected to respond with relevance and precision to the given question. In the first objective, the first keyword would be relevance, and the next one would be precision. And secondly, you are also expected to write sentences using a variety of sentence structures by including accurate and effective punctuation. So the next key phrase would be variety of sentence structures, also accurate and effective punctuation. If you notice in the first assessment objective, I have highlighted the word relevance and precision. Please be mindful when you are answering the question for this section, you need to be relevant. Being relevant here means you need to answer the given question. For example, if you are given the question to answer or to write a story about a fisherman, make sure you write a story of a fisherman. Not writing about other professions. For example, if you write about firemen, it is clear that you are not being relevant. And then in the second part, writing sentence using variety of sentence structures, we are focusing on this for you to get merits for your for the CW part for paper 1. All right. Now let's look at what Benjamin Franklin had once said. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Those are the powerful words quoted from one of the most powerful people in the world. So in order for you to attempt the CW question, make sure you plan first. You need to start with a draft. And my advice to you is that out of the 60 minutes that you are given to attempt this part, make sure you spend the maximum of 15 minutes to draft your essay. This is to ensure that you won't be penalized, or this is also to avoid you from getting partial treatment. The partial treatment is being used in the examination process when you are not being fully relevant to the given question. Please be mindful. If you are given this kind of treatment, let's say you are actually an A student, you actually deserve to get marks. But because of you are being given partial treatment, it is not possible that your marks can be brought down to the maximum of 2025. So in order to plan for your writing, make sure you understand the question. As for this afternoon session, we are going to focus on narrative question. This narrative question came out last year for SPM. Write a story about two people who had an argument because one of them had lost a mobile phone. And in your story, you must end it with, and they both realized how foolish they had been. So when you get this kind of question, firstly, you need to understand what is given to you. And then once you have understood the question, you can proceed with highlighting all the keywords. For example, in this question, the first keyword would be two people, argument, one lost a mobile phone, and then you need to end your essay with how they both realized how foolish they had been. Okay, so once you have understand the question, you can go to the next one, which is creating the storyline. This is the plot that you need to draft before you start writing your essay. You must start with an exposition, and moving to the climax. In between, you have the rising action, and then after the climax, you also have the falling action and also resolution. Make sure you focus on a clear storyline. It is very important for you to make sure that the reader will understand what you are trying to tell them. Okay. We are going to look into the storyline based on this question. Remember just now, I have highlighted all the keywords based on the question that came out last year. The next step is that once you have identified the storyline, once you have understood all the parts from the plot, it's time to put all the keywords in your plot. For example, the two people, this one can be included in the exposition part. Remember, the word exposition comes from the word expose. So in the beginning of your storyline, you need to expose your characters, and you also need to expose where we're there and when the story started. Okay, after that, you have the keyword argument. Okay, for this keyword argument, it can be put either in one of the two parts of your plot. For example, the argument can be written in the falling action part. Okay, also moving towards the end of your story. And before an argument, there must be a reason why these two people argue. So the cause of the argument in this case for this question would be one of them had lost a mobile phone. So you can either put in the falling action or in the climax phase. And don't forget, the other requirement of the question would be you have to end your story with, and they both realized how foolish they had been. So this part should go into the resolution part of your plot. Okay? Alright. So after you have put all the keywords in the plot, now it's time for you to create your storyline. Please remember that the question in your era now, I think starting in 2014, the questions are getting more helpful to you because you have been given the details to be included in the storyline. Imagine last time when I took my SPM, normally question number 5 would be this, a one-word question. So you are given the chance to write about music, different type of music, different genres of music, the advantages of listening to music, or even you can write a story that is related to music. Okay, so next one. How are we going to create the storyline based on the given question? Okay, so we have put all the keywords in the storyline. Now is the time for you to give more details for every part of your storyline. For example, in the exposition, remember I said earlier, this is to expose your character. Let's say you are writing about two characters, namely Ali and Abu, when Okay, it was the last day of school. And these two characters, they were discussing on what to do during the school holidays. So you can write in the story that they were discussing or they were planning activities during school holidays. And in this case, I would like to include that they want to do something at the shopping mall during the school holiday. So all these three would be crucial or would be written in the first part, in the beginning of your story. Before you move on to the climax of the story, make sure you develop what happens before that. So that can be put in the rising action. Remember just now they plan to do some activities at the shopping mall. Now, in the rising action part, you can write what they do at the shopping mall. So we write shopping mall here. So what were the activities that they did at the shopping mall? Firstly, maybe you can say that they went to watch some movies. All right. And next, maybe they ate food. And also, as students, they also bought some. Enough. Okay. And then we move on to the next part, the climax. Remember just now we have transferred all the keywords from the question into your storyline. So this is when you add more details so that you can expand or you can elaborate more on your storyline. Okay? So the climax would be how the mobile phone got lost. And then in the following action is where you develop the argument. And then how it ends, they were embarrassed because maybe they were arguing in a shopping mall where a lot of people could see them arguing. Remember, the conflict in our story is an argument, and make sure you put an end to that argument by including them either in the following action or the resolution part. Okay? So remember to focus on a clear storyline. You don't have to be too ambitious. Please mark my words, yeah? Being ambitious is fine, but being too ambitious will make your story become a bit blurry. And we don't want that to be happening because the examiner needs to fully understand what you are trying to write or what you have written or what you're trying to say to them. Okay. Now we are done with creating a storyline. Let's move to the next part of our session, which is creating a variety of sentence structure. The reason why you need various sentence structure, first one is that to avoid yourself from being monotonous. Imagine if your essay is monotonous, it might lead to boredom. It might make your essay sound boring. So in order for you to make your story become interesting, make sure you vary your sentence structures. And reason number two, the reason for you to need to have a variety of sentence structure is for you to give good impressions to the examiners. There are a lot of ways for you to wow the examiners. And in our session for this afternoon, what I will be doing is that I'm going to share with you how you can manipulate punctuations to impress your examiners. Okay? Another way for you to impress your examiners is also by including simple, compound, and complex sentences. Okay? You can also use sophisticated words to impress your examiner. One thing about using sophisticated words, also known as bombastic words, you have to be careful when you write them in your essay. Make sure those words are relevant to the context of your writing. Let me give you an example. The word flabbergasted. If you just write a story like this, one night I woke up, I went into the kitchen and I saw a cockroach. I was flabbergasted. There's nothing wrong with the sentence structure. It's just that the word flabbergasted is not suitable in the context that you are writing or in the context that you are trying to explain to your readers. Okay, so in order for you to vary your sentence structure, like I've mentioned just now, we are going to be focusing on punctuation. Let's look at this sentence. Let's eat grandma. Let's see if I put a full stop here. There's something wrong with your sentence, right? It shows that you are being or you are practicing cannibalism. So that's why punctuation is very crucial in writing. The correct punctuation would be, let's eat. But please notice that even if you change the simple punctuation, let's say you change the full stop to an exclamation mark. What you can notice is that it has already changed the tone of your sentence. Okay? When you put an exclamation mark, it might means two things. Maybe you are angry, or maybe you are excited to see your grandmother. And the first thing that you want to say to your grandmother is you want to invite your grandmother to have a feast. Okay? There are many other punctuation that can be used when you write. These are the normal punctuations that can be seen in writing. You know what a full stop is. You know what a comma is. You know what's an exclamation mark. And you know how to use question marks. And I know that your teachers even encourage you to use quotation mark to include dialogues in your essay. My advice to you is that make sure you use all this punctuation in your writing. And if you are including dialogues in your essay, make sure you don't include too many dialogues. Remember, you are writing a story, you are narrating a story in the form of a writing, you are not writing a drama script. Therefore, try to avoid too many dialogues in your essay. Okay, the punctuation that I'm going to share with you, or the one that I'm going to introduce to you, is a semicolon. That's a semicolon. Okay, normally when I go to schools or my sharing session, I will share with them how to use the semicolon. So in this session, in this afternoon, we are going to look at how the semicolon can be used for two different purposes. The first one, you can use a semicolon to describe a place, meaning you can write a description by including semicolon in your sentence structures. The next one is that you can also use semicolon to describe a situation, what's going on at that place and at that time. Now, we look at the first part, describing a place, how you can go about using semicolon in describing a place. And for this technique and for this session, if you have a pen or a foolscap paper, we can do this together. What we'll be doing is based on this part of the storyline. Remember just now, for this part, for Rising Action, Ali and Abu, they were having their times at the shopping mall by doing a few activities, namely watching movies, eating food, and also buying some books. Okay. How you can go about with using semicolon? Before you start writing your sentence structure, let's plan how you can include semicolon in your sentence. Okay? Remember just now, in order for you to use a semicolon, you must focus only on one premise. So the premise that we are focusing on, based on the given storyline just now, is a shopping mall. And in the shopping mall, there are a lot of different places as well. We can categorize them into this: first floor, second floor, and also top floor. So in order for you to use semicolon in describing the shopping mall, make sure you include the other places within the premise. For example, in the first floor, you can find a Starbucks coffee shop, or maybe you can find a hardware on the first floor. And then if you move on to the second floor of the shopping mall, you can find men's and women's clothing, plus a bookshop. And then on the top floor, there are cinemas and also food court. Okay, before we start using the semicolon, let me stress on this. First, you are talking about one premise, and the premise is a shopping mall. And in the shopping mall, there are many other different parts or places that can be found within the same premise. There's one floor, second floor, and also top floor. And on each floor, there are a lot of other shops as well. For example, highlighted on the screen. So how can you go about with including a semicolon in the sentence? It's like this. Remember just now, we talked about how you can develop your rising action. So you can start your sentence with this. Once Ali and Abu stepped into the shopping mall, they were mesmerized to see Starbucks coffee shop, comma, hardware, or maybe hardware store on the first floor. And what can be found in the second floor? Men's and women's clothing, and also a bookshop, and a bookshop on the second floor. And lastly, what can be found in the top floor? On the top floor, at cinemas, as well as a food court on the top floor. If you look at this structure, I am not focusing on sophisticated or bombastic words. If you manage to write these kind of structures, you are actually coming out with a very sophisticated structure. And please remember, if you want to include more than one place on one floor, make sure you use commas. Make sure you use the comma. And firstly, you describe what's on the first floor, divided with a semicolon. And then you go about with describing what is available on the second floor, a semicolon. And don't forget, in the last part of your sentence, make sure you include the word "and" in your sentence. This is actually describing a place. You can use this structure to describe a setting in your essay. Alright? There are a lot of things, or there are a lot of other places that you can do. Let's try one. For example, let's choose your school. Okay? You can come up with the brace map first, and then you choose your school. Alright? What can be found in our school? First, every school has an academic building. And in my school, we have hostel, and also we have quite a massive field in our school. Okay? Remember, the concept is same with this one. It's just that we are now doing for a different premise. And in this case, we are trying to create a sentence using a semicolon to describe a school. What can be found at the academic building? Classrooms, labs, staff room, and maybe the school office. And then when you go about to hostel, what are the things that can be found? Toilets, dorms, or maybe your hostel has utility room, a room for you to iron your clothes and so on. Right? And at the field, what can be found? Store, and also maybe you want to describe the goalpost as well. Okay. Go ahead, try to create a sentence based on the given brace map. Don't forget to include semicolon in your sentence. What you can do after this is that you can consult your teachers and you can ask your teachers to check whether you are using the semicolon accordingly. All right? Okay. I think that this is not very difficult for you to do, but apart from describing a place, remember just now, when I showed to you, we can use a semicolon firstly to describe a place, and we can also use a semicolon to describe a situation. If you notice, in this structure, there is no verb included in the sentence. They are all nouns. What you can do is that we can also use a semicolon to describe a situation. We are going to use this part of the storyline. Okay? If you have a pen and pencil and also a foolscap paper, we can do this together. First, make sure you have this brace map. Okay? Now, remember, students, what we are doing now is that we described a place. Now we are going to describe a situation. What's going on at that place? So that place is still the same. We are going to describe a situation at a shopping mall. Okay? What can be seen at the shopping mall? For example, we can see teenagers at the cinema. We can also see families dining or having lunch at the restaurants. And also, we can describe about old folks. Maybe they are doing something at the pharmacy. Next, we go to this part of the brace map. What are all these people doing at that time? For example, teenagers, they are watching movies at the cinema. As for families, they are having lunch together with the family members. And the old folks, maybe they are buying some medicine at the pharmacy. So how can you go about with writing the sentence using a semicolon? You can start writing like this. There were a lot of people at the shopping mall. Ali and Abu could see many teenagers queuing up to buy movie tickets at the cinema, semicolon. Families with their beloved ones were having lunch at the restaurants. And for the last part of the brace map, and some old folks were buying their medicines at the pharmacy. Why I said that the structure is quite similar to the one that we did before. First, we have who, a group of people. Okay, it can be anybody. You can describe about characters as well. Then you can write about what they were doing, the action. Remember, you are using this structure to describe a situation. So, in this case, the families were having lunch, and then the old folks were buying medicines. And lastly, we also have the places where cinema, families were at the restaurants, and old folks were at the pharmacy. Okay? So I hope you can try this at home. Okay? You can refer to this video from time to time. Remember, practice make perfect, and you can consult your teachers for them to check your structure. All right. Allow me to give more example. Allow me to give more examples how this structure can be used in your essay. For example, you want to write a scene before going for a travel. You can write like this. Before we departed from Malacca, Mom prepared some quick bites in the kitchen, semicolon. Dad was busy checking the car in the garage, semicolon. And I took my time in my bedroom to pack my stuff while updating my Insta story, telling the whole world how excited I was. Remember, the concept, the structure, how you can go about with planning the sentence structure is the same. First, you must include the character, in this case, mom, dad, and yourself. Okay, what were they doing? Prepared some quick bite, packing the car, and also packing stuff. And where were they? And where are all those people doing? So mom, she was in the kitchen. Dad, he was busy in the garage. And how about you, yourself in the bedroom? Okay? Again, I would like to stress this. I am not focusing on sophisticated words or bombastic words. What I'm focusing is on sophisticated structure. I bet that if you are able to write like this, you will definitely be able to impress the examiner and also gain more merits, and also will increase your mark for this section for CW. Let's go through more examples. The day before the school holiday started. So you can write like this. It was the last day of school, and before we headed home, all the boys in my class arranged the chairs and tables nicely, semicolon. The girls helped the whole class to return our textbooks at the school hall, semicolon, and my best friend and I decided to meet our teachers in the staff room. Now look at this sentence structure. I'm giving you some time for you to highlight the keywords. Remember, highlight the characters, what were they doing, and also where were they. Okay? Right. Okay. The next one. Before we end our session for today, this is the practices that you can do on your own. If you have time after this, after our session, you can write a sentence using semicolon to describe a scene at the school canteen. That's one scene for you. You can also write a scene at a night market. Next, you can also write a scene during a sporting event, something that's happening at the stadium, or maybe you can describe a scene during your school sports day. And lastly, you can also write a sentence by including semicolon to write a scene during a festivity. For example, you can write what's happening during Thaipusam, Chinese New Year, or Aidilfitri celebration. Remember, I am saying this for the third time, that practice makes perfect. In order for you to truly master this technique, you must practice. So what can you do after this is that you can always refer to this video, to this recording later on, and you can improve yourself. But remember, please also don't forget to consult your teacher for their guidance. Okay? So in short, always remember to do this for when you are attempting the CW part of English paper 1. Firstly, we went through how can you go about with understanding the question. Remember, once you have understood the question, make sure you highlight all the keywords and phrases in the given question because those are the requirements for those questions. If you are unable to fulfill the requirement of the question, you will be given a partial treatment. And remember, like I said just now, when you are given a partial treatment for your essay, the maximum mark that you will get for your CW, out of 50 marks, you will only be getting 25. And then, after you have highlighted all the keywords and phrases, make sure you come out with a clear storyline. Remember, students, at this point of time, when you have 1 or 2 months for your SPM, you must focus on developing an essay with less errors. The more errors you make, the lesser marks that you are going to get. Next, we also went through how you can go about with using punctuation to come out with a sophisticated structure. If you are getting excited of how to use punctuation, if you see there on the screen, I've written an advice there. Don't overdo it. That's why just now I only focus on the rising action part. If you would like to apply this technique, or if you would like to apply this structure, make sure you focus only on one part of your storyline. Don't use semicolon in every sentence that you are writing. Don't use semicolon in every paragraph of your essay. If you are using it for only once throughout your essay, that will be good enough. Okay, so don't overdo it. And lastly, always remember to check your time. For this section, for CW, you are only given 60 minutes. Make sure the first 15 minutes is being used for you to draft your essay, plan your essay well, and then after the next 15 minutes, you must write your essay. And if you have some extra time, let's say the last 10 minutes, once you have finished writing your essay, make sure you check and recheck for errors. Remember, the lesser error that you make, the more marks that you will get for the CW part. And lastly, before we end, I would like to show you how you can go about with scoring A for English. If you can see that you have 2 papers for English. Paper 1 consists of DW and also CW. Section A is the directed writing. The CW is your continuous writing that can be found in section B. And paper 2 includes 4 sections. Section A, section B, section C, and section D. In order for you to score 70 marks. For English, for DW format, you have to score 3 marks. Content, you need to get all the content points, and language should be minimum of 10. Total of 25 for your DW. And for your CW, you must also score a minimum of 25 marks. So when you add all these two sections together, it comes out to the total of 50 marks. For paper 2 section A, make sure out of 15, you get 12. And for section B, make sure you get 10 out of 10. For reading comprehension question, out of 10 marks, you must get at least 8. And for summary, you must get all the content points and also language mark of 3. Poem, you must score the full marks. And for novel, make sure you score at least C7. Make sure you score at least 7 marks for your content. And then for language, make sure you score 3. So in total, you have to score a minimum of 58 marks for your paper 2. So when you add up all together, paper 1 and paper 2, 50 plus 58, you get total up of 108, divided by 155, you will get 70 marks. If you notice in this part, I am only asking you to get 25 out of 50 marks. Don't be surprised if I say this to you. In order to get 50 out of 50 for the CW part, for your essay, for SPM examination, that is quite impossible. You need a lot of practices in order for you to score the perfect marks for your CW. But don't be afraid, like what I'm showing you on the screen now, in order for you to score 70 marks for the English paper, you have to score the minimum of 25 for continuous writing. Okay? So remember, at this point of time, we have around 1 to 2 months until the real SPM. Focus on varying your sentence structures and come up with less errors. Okay? Alright. I think that's all for today, for this afternoon session. Thank you for being attentive. Okay? If you have any questions, you can contact me through Instagram. You can find my name, AZRIQ AZMAN. Or if you prefer to contact me through email, you can write an email to aimanb@edd.edu.my. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Sektor Sumber and Teknologi Pendidikan JPN Pahang YouTube channel. I wish all the best. I hope that within this approximately 45 minutes, I have been helpful to you, and all the best. And remember, nothing is impossible. I will pray that everyone who is taking SPM next year will score A+ for all the subjects that you are taking. Okay, thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.